Hi, today we are talking about the skill of thinking like a historian and incorporating that into our DBQ. Let's just take a look for a minute on Moodle and remind ourselves of our rubric. Don't forget to watch the exciting rubric video. But on the rubric, you're going to notice that there are a few things you need to incorporate. So for example, for a 3 right here, okay, for a 3-level score, you need to incorporate in one of these, we call them TLH skills or thinking like a historian. And I'm just going to talk briefly about a few of these thinking like a historian skills. And here we see a kind of a graphic organizer of thinking like a historian. D.C. Everest has also added in the idea of differing perspectives. And so we're going to take a look at one or two of these and how we can add them into our DBQ. Now, our DBQ is all about turning points. And so we've already incorporated into our DBQ this thinking like a historian skill, because the question itself is asking you about a thinking like a historian skill. It's asking you why was the Battle of Gettysburg a turning point? So right here we see the idea of turning points is very, very important in history. Let's take a look at our body paragraph that we've looked at already. And one of the skills that we're going to try and add in is the skill of through their eyes, looking at it through their eyes. Whenever we use primary sources like journals and diaries, we are in fact trying to see things through the eyes of the people that were there at the time. So for example, if we take a look at Robert E. Lee's journal excerpts, two pieces from the letters that he wrote to President Jefferson Davis, we can see a little bit, we can feel a little bit of his anguish. It says that it is believed that the enemy suffered severely in these operations, but our own loss has not been light. And then he goes through and he talks about their officers that have been lost. Our losses embrace many other valuable officers and men. And even more so, I think we can see this in the next one. This is where, again, he is talking about, please replace me. I cannot even accomplish what I myself desire. How can I fulfill the expectations of others? He also talks up here about, I have heard and seen the expression of discontent in the, in the news about Gettysburg. So he's been listening to what people are saying, that he's a failure. And so we see through his eyes a little bit better. So if we come back here, we've already talked a little bit just by adding in this part about asking him to supply my place, and we said this letter shows that Lee was questioning his ability to win battles. And we can also add in just a little bit more. We also, and I sometimes like to use those words, see through the eyes of, oops. We also see through the eyes of Robert E. Lee when he states, and I'm just going to come back here to my document. All right. When he states that it is believed that the enemy suffered, but our own losses have not been light. I don't think I can take that. So I'm going to add this part in here when he talks about, light, period. And again, I'm just going to comment on that. Lee understands the impact that the Confederate casualties All right, so let's just go back and reread. That's one thing that I always do. We also see through the eyes of Robert E. Lee when he states, but our own losses have not been light. Lee understands the impact that the Confederate casualties at Gettysburg would have, or I should say would have, I think. Anyway, just using some of these phrases right here, like we see through the eyes of Robert E. Lee, it's doing what a historian does, trying to look at things, trying to feel his pain and anguish. He had been so excited before this, Battle of Gettysburg, so confident, and here it is a month or so later, and we, we hear his anguish. So please remember to incorporate in at least one thinking like a historian. Great places in your body paragraphs where you need some evidence. All right, have fun.